The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, visit our website at www.dallasgenealogy.org. While you're there, you'll want to notice that registration for our July 25th summer seminar, DNA from A to Z Unlocking Your Genetic Code, is now open. As you are probably aware, the City of Dallas has laid off many employees. The Friends of the Dallas Public Library has started a special fund that will assist staff members of the Dallas Public Library through these difficult times. There's a link on our website. I encourage you to click on it and please donate generously.
Okay, so you're on.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is our, we normally have this, the Dallas Genealogical Society, the DNA interest group. We usually meet the third Thursday of each month between September and May. Meet from 6 o'clock until about 7:30 when they kick us out of the library. We meet in the stone room, which is on the 7th floor, and you do not have to be a member of Dallas Genealogical Society to be in the to come to our meetings. It's nice if you do join DGS, but you're not required to. We have no dues for the interest group, so you're welcome at any time, and you can be added to our mailing list just by letting Barbara know, and she will set you up and let you know each time we meet. This is like one of our first times. We're social distancing apparently, so we have people tonight that normally come to our meeting. We have some people that I'm going to be talking on mitochondria, and I have a mitochondria project that I have created, and some of the people from there are here. I also let some of since we're going to talk about my family, I let some of my cousins and my siblings and so forth know about it, and there's a few of them in the audience, I believe. And so anyway, so far as, let's see, we have a glitch here, folks. Trying to move on to the next slide, and it's not wanting to do that. Let's see. I got to that slide. That was the first slide.
There you go.
There's a second. There's a second slide. We have a seminar that we're going to be holding. Actually, it's Dallas Genealogical Society will be holding it on Saturday, July the 25th, from 8:50 to 4 o'clock. A number of big name DNA speakers will be featured: Blaine Bettinger, Mary Eberly, Patricia Lee Hobbs, and Diane Southard. And this is going to be a virtual seminar, just like tonight. It's wherever you live, you can come to it. And anyway, there's going to be 12 sessions from beginners to advanced. You select 4 of those, and let's see, you check the Dallas Genealogical Society website at dallasgenealogy.org, and there's a website there on the bottom of the screen there. You can go to that. You just go to Dallas Genealogical Society and look for events. But the price for students is $50, DGS members $60, non-members $70, and then after July 5th, it's going to go up to $10. I'm teaching an online virtual class. Everything's virtual now. There's no classes going on at any of the colleges around during the summer. But this is a 4-week class going to be taught on Wednesdays from 1:30 to about 3 o'clock, beginning June 10th, going to July 3rd. And it's about genetic genealogy. We'll talk about the different companies and a lot of different things. And after I teach my class for 4 weeks, Bob Davis, who just happens to be a cousin of mine from back in South Carolina, Virginia. Our ancestors were, well, they ended up being the same ancestor, but we're off of 2 different kids back in the colonial period in South Carolina. He will continue with a more advanced class. He's going to talk about third-party DNA testing tools and stuff like that, and interpretations thereof. And to enroll, you can contact Deborah at Brookhaven College, and she will set you up signing in. At the Richland College, there's also Laura Tynes is teaching there some classes on legacy family tree software. So if you're interested, you could contact Richland College or Laura Tynes there at that address. And then last but not least, next Tuesday night is May 26th? Yeah, it should be May 26th at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. Cece Moore, who has gotten herself in a lot of trouble. She solves cold cases for police, and they have created a series about called The Genetic Detective, and so she's going to be explaining how she goes about solving cold cases and finding adoptees and identifying dead people, or whether they've been dead for a long time or dead for a short time. And anyway, I don't know how long the series lasts. It's on ABC TV in Dallas. That's the WFAA channel number 8, and I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out. So tonight we're going to talk about mitochondria, mixed mitochondria DNA ancestor, and I call her the sister of Kesiah Willis, because I don't know who she is, and her DNA, my DNA, is, and any of my siblings or nieces, nephews, all of us, not my cousins, just my nieces and nephews, and some of the cousins, have DNA haplogroup K1A, 4A, 1BA. It's a mile long, but we're going to talk about that haplogroup. That's what the project is tonight. And then some of the people from that project are in this audience tonight as well. Little DNA 101. There's 3 different kinds of DNA, basically. There's autosomal, which everybody inherits 50% of their DNA from their mother and 50% from their father. And that's their total DNA. You get 46 chromosomes from the total of your parents. You get 23 from your father, 23 from your mother. The 23rd chromosome that you get determines, from each parent, determines whether you're a male or you're a female. And so you have them to thank for that. Get a Y chromosome from their father, and they, in other words, I got it from my father, he got it from his 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 father, and so forth like that. Then the third kind that we're going to talk about tonight is the mitochondria. That's the maternal line. Both males and females inherit this from their mother. Females pass it along and males do not. Females pass it on to both their sons and daughters, and males do not pass it on to their kids. However, so in other words, I got my Y from my dad. My sister did not. She got 2 X's. And the X and the mitochondria are not the same thing. So anyway, so we're going to be talking about the mitochondria tonight. What companies sell the mitochondria? Sell different kinds of tests. Ancestry sells Well, most of the companies just sell Autosomal. In fact, all the companies except Family Tree DNA sell Autosomal. So they all sell Autosomal. That's your father and your mother and that's your 46 chromosomes that you inherited from both of your parents. Only Family Tree DNA sells the Y DNA. I've taken that test. Only Family Tree DNA sells the mitochondria. So if you're interested in either of those two tests, as I said, males can only take the Y, but males and females both can take the mitochondria. And here's let me see if I can, let me see drawing tools here. Let me see if I can, yeah, okay. This demonstrates here, there's two children. Let's just say this is me and my sister and my brother, which there's not three people there, but anyway, that's my brother and that's me and my sister. This is me, that's my father, that's his father, and his father. And that goes on back to the light of day. That is your Y DNA. Then both of us got our mitochondria from our mother. So this is me and my sister. This is my mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, and her mother, and so forth back to the light of day again. And this represents, this whole map is your autosomal. So everything, you get 50% of your DNA from your dad's side, you get 50% of your DNA from your mother's side. And these DNA tests are, I'm using, in fact, I'm going to show where I used all of this stuff tonight in one of the case studies. So, if I'm lucky, the slide will move. I don't know if that little thing has anything to do with it or not. Well, folks, let me try something else here. There you go. Are y'all seeing that? Is that in your way?
We're seeing shorthand. We're seeing mtDNA testing levels and their prices. Is that correct?
Okay, that's what you should be seeing. But I've got something else that's in my screen that I'm trying to get out of it.
Oh, okay.
And it's okay. There it went. When you're testing the mitochondrial DNA, there's several levels of doing the DNA. Let me see here. I'm trying to get my screen. I've got an extra screen up here that y'all are not seeing. Are y'all seeing that little the pointer?
Yes.
That pink pointer?
Yes.
Okay.
We're seeing
Okay.
the spotlight.
That's good. You were supposed to, but I'm trying to get rid of this extra screen that's.
Do you have
have
you got the presenter? Are you in the presenter mode instead of just regular PowerPoint mode?
I mean, on my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You say the screen that you're seeing, is that
what I've got, Barbara, is the I'm seeing the names of people who are.
Oh.
in the audience, and I'm seeing the screen. I've got a small screen that shows me what you're seeing,
Okay,
and I'm trying to get rid of that.
so go up to the middle. This is what I was telling others. Go up to the middle of your screen, and you'll see
Okay.
does it says see everyone or see something? What does it say up there in the very middle of your screen at the top?
Well, I think part of it is I have that little pink thing,
Yeah,
and
there it is. Now it's
I
off.
think, okay,
Now you got an arrow.
yeah, maybe let me try that. Let me see if that helps.
Okay,
No,
so
it wants me. I don't want to leave the meeting.
no, don't leave the meeting. Go up to the top of your screen. Go on top of the screen, and it probably says everyone who's talking, active cameras, or high. If you click on that, it should say.
There you go. I did it.
Okay.
I did it. So I don't know what I did, but it worked.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, there's three levels basically of taking a mitochondria test. There's HVR1, which is hyper variable something or another number 1, and hypervariable something else number 2. And Family Tree DNA started out selling these. That was the beginnings, and they were way back in years that it would reveal what your ancestry was back, hundreds of years, thousands of years ago. They don't sell that anymore because they have come up with this full mitochondria sequence, which is your whole cell, chromosome. And so it includes all 3 of these, and that's the current standard. It runs about $159. A few weeks ago, it was on sale for about $20 off. There is an upgrade if you have, and we have people in our project, and there's a lot of people online that have one or both of these tests here, and you can upgrade from here for about $119. And then when it was on sale a week or 2 ago, it was $79. So that was this. I like that little pointer, but I think it gives me problems. Yeah, it gives me problems. I'm gonna leave it off. This is, and you can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, this is a mitochondria cell. This is a cell membrane. These are the mitochondria in here. This is the Y and the X chromosomes that are in a cell. And so what we're talking about tonight is the mitochondria here. And a lot of people get it mixed up with the X and the Y, but the X and the Y are inside of that little cell membrane there. How many generations will the mitochondria take you back? This is why they only do the full mitochondria sequence. On the HVR1, it took you back at 50% confidence to 52 generations, which is about 1,300 years. The HVR1 and HVR2 cut that in half, which brought you up to about 28 generations, which is about 700 years. And that's why it wasn't that great, because Jamestown is, whatever that is, 350 years ago, almost 400 years ago. So the full mitochondria sequence test, which is that's the only test they're selling today. It takes you back about 5 generations, which is approximately at 50% confidence to 125 years. And if you really get to 95% confidence, it takes you 22 generations, or maybe about 550 years. So, it's a big divide there, but you're going to have to do some work to figure out where your matches are actually at. This is a mitochondrial cell. This is the different parts. Let's see, I'm looking for my cursor. This is the HVR problem. It runs right across here. The HVR1 and HVR2 and then the HVR3. They run right across this part here, and that's consists of these different locations here that I have on the left-hand side in that graph, and the rest of it is the coding regions, which is the bulk of and the real important part of what's in the mitochondrial cell. I'm a K haplogroup. K haplogroup is named for Katrine. It's one of the 7 daughters of Eve that Brian Sykes wrote a book in the year 2000 called The 7 Daughters of Eve. It was a real interesting book, and it talked about, he named different, as people came out of Africa, they assigned in DNA, they assigned different haplogroups to different people. It's not really ethnic, or it's definitely not cultural, but everybody came out of Africa, and I've got a map coming up here soon that will kind of show you how everybody came out of Africa, and different haplogroups went different ways, and the people that were in those various haplogroups kind of intermarried and whatever, and so their descendants, basically us, their descendants have those different kinds of haplogroups. Now there's haplogroups for both the Y DNA and also for the for the mitochondria. And tonight we're just talking about the mitochondria. The oldest known descendant of the K haplogroup is Otzi or Etsy or whatever his name is. He's 5,000-year-old Iceman that they found in the Alps in 1991. And some other K descendants are Stephen Colbert, Meryl Streep, and Mary Magdalene. And they decided on Mary Magdalene because there were some cuttings of her hair in a church in France, and they tested that hair, and it had the haplogroup K. So, and there's 3 different subclades, K1A, K1B, and K1C. And what I am is the K1B. Here's the map. Hope you can see it. They have the world basically kind of real light colored in the background, but it's showing the various haplogroups this is mitochondrial haplogroups coming out of Europe, and I mean out of Africa, and some went other places in Africa, and then they started going up to the Middle East, and I apologize for the screen moving there, and then our K goes up and comes up in this area here, and then from there spread out. So I have, when I get my ethnicities on these ethnic tests and all, they say that I have some Middle Eastern in me, and it's got to be, I don't know how many thousands of years ago it was. This K is over 16,000 years ago. So they say that the Druze, that you hear about them on the news, they're in Syria and places, that they are, there's quite a few of them that are prevalent having K haplogroup. So I always watch the news and talking about the Druze. But anyway, we have people in our group that were predominantly from the British Isles, from over in Germany, as well as up in Norway and Sweden. There's a word called genetic distance, mitochondrial genetic distance, and that's a little different than the Y genetic distance. On the Y, they have a thing called a tip. This is on family tree DNA. If you took the Y test, the tip calculator tells you how many generations that you probably might have a common ancestor with somebody else you're matching. But the mitochondria does not have that. And you can have up to 4 mismatches or mutations or genetic distance, whatever you want to call it. It's all pretty much synonymous with other people in your test, in your mitochondria test. So, but there's other ways. You know, I said that there's, when we're talking about mitochondria, that's me and my sister here. We got our mitochondria from our mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother. But I have a cousin that's on tonight, and she got her mitochondria from her mother. Okay, and it operates the same thing. Let's just say this is my cousin. This is her mother. This is our grandparents. So she got hers from our grandmother. And then it goes on back. But the Y comes from, in this case, I got my Y from my dad, who got it from his dad, who got it from his dad, who got it from his dad. And this is me. This is my father. This is my grandfather. This is the Y DNA trail. Me, my dad, my grandfather, my great grandfather, and our great great grandfather died in the Civil War. Died in 1862 at Island Number 10, and he was married, and his wife, his widow, a few years later, her name was Louisa Marshall, and a couple of years later, about 1865 or something like that, she remarried, and I take her over here because I used to know this lady here. I started out working with this lady probably in the 1970s or 80s, and her daughter Margaret is in the audience, I believe, too. Anyway, I was on Ancestry, and I noticed that I saw a family tree there, and I recognized the family tree as being cousin Louise's tree. And so I wrote to the person who had that tree. It turned out it was Margaret. Margaret, I have a cousin, Peggy, and a cousin named Margaret. And Peggy is Margaret, but she doesn't go by Margaret. She goes by Peggy. And Margaret goes by Margaret. So, but anyway, I recognize that tree. Our ancestors were Louisa Marshall, and so Margaret descends from, this is the lady here, Louise, that I used to correspond with back in the 70s and 80s, and her mother was Elizabeth Welch. Her mother was Louisa Marshall, who was also my grandfather's grandmother. And so anyway, we got together, Margaret and I, and she took the mitochondria test, as did Peggy. And so this is how, using the so I went up using when it was just Peggy and I, we went up the Y. Of course, I had the Y, but Peggy didn't. We went up on the Y, came across here at the great-great-grandfather level to Louisa Marshall, and when she married Benjamin Welsh, it came down on Margaret's mitochondria side. So we, hopefully that's not too confusing to you. And so Peggy and Margaret share the same mitochondria haplogroup, T2B5A, that my grandmother had, and it just so happens that when the test came back, Peggy and Margaret matched exactly. So basically, my grandfather and my grandmother are related. It's not, and not the same way. There's two different ways that they actually related. This is Peggy's mitochondria. This is her mother, who is my dad's sister. My grandmother, great grandmother, great great great, and on back. And then this is Margaret's mitochondria. In this fashion here, they don't match, but my grandfather and my grandmother were related. And this tells the story basically of what I just said. And then there was a surprise about a week ago. Both Peggy and Margaret got an exact match, one genetic distance from another match on the test, on the mitochondria test. And when I looked at this person's test, he has an ancestor, Nancy Townsend, and that got my attention. His father was a William Townsend, and this is on his mitochondria. So this is his whatever she was. And I've invited this gentleman to the meeting. I don't know if he's here tonight, but anyway, this is it starts way over here on his mother's side, and goes here to Lucy Ann Richardson, down to Nancy Townsend, down to William Townsend and Mary Stone. And I had already looked at this information before, long before I ever knew him. And in fact, we haven't really even corresponded yet. But William has a brother who is a Townsend, and Mary has a sister who married a Townsend, who married William's brother. And so I suspect at some point we're going to find, I don't really think that this is our common ancestor, but I think the brother and her sister, I think they potentially could be our ancestors. And they're up in, I think they're in like Halifax County, Virginia or somewhere, and it's going to be well, you can see here, this Nancy's born in 1766, so it's taken us quite a ways back. So this leads me into my mother's side that I'm going to talk about now. That was my dad's side and some of the connections on my dad's side. I had an ancestor, Nancy Cobb, born in 1836 in Houston County, Georgia. Her father was James M. Cobb, born about 1797 in Baldwin County, Georgia. And there's no record that I have been able to come across for James M. Cobb marrying anybody, or at least his first wife. I don't know her name. I don't know her age. I don't know her first name or last name, anything about her. She died about 1840, and she had 4 kids prior to her dying. Nancy Cobb is one of those kids. I tried to work with the different families, Brooks, Guy, Holloman. I tried to find a name that I could work with, that I could pin her into a family and hopefully find some kind of family record or deed or will or something that I could prove who she was, and nothing I did ever materialized. So again, the mother died in 1840, and he married, the husband married again a second time in 1843 or so, and I could prove that she was definitely not the mother of Nancy Cobb. Um, but anyway, I had at some point I had already taken. I think I either already taken the mitochondria test or I did shortly thereafter. And I know it sat on the back burner for quite a while before I ever started working with it. I was just scratching my head and I was looking for all these other surnames, trying to prove, who this mother was. Then as I started looking, I had 3 matches matching me on the mitochondria test, and all 3 of them over in Georgia, and all three of the descendants were descendants of they're off of different daughters of Kesiah Willis. And the more I worked with it, I could tell that I was related to Kesiah Willis, and that's where I call up that my ancestor was the sister of Kesiah Willis. Kesiah Willis was the wife of James M. Cobb. My ancestor had a brother named Buck Cobb, and Buck married Kesiah Willis. I forgot the year, in Hancock County, Georgia. And in 1850, Buck and Kesiah are living next door to James M. Cobb. So, I mean, they definitely knew each other. And I'm sharing the mitochondria of Kesiah Willis with the descendants of Kesiah Willis. So after quite a while, I've always been looking for a marriage record or something and I've started investigating if I could see who the parents of Kesiah Willis was, and maybe discover, who their children were or something to that effect. And I still have not come up with a first name for my ancestor. And so then anyway, like I say, I just finally just said, well, if Kesiah Willis is my person that I'm connected to, we have the same haplogroup, and it's likely that my ancestor is Kesiah Willis's sister, then how about her parents? And so from there, I started going on back, and I started researching different people that we were matching. I have used the Ancestry public trees, the through lines, the family search, the wiki tree, the Google, my heritage, the DNA matches, the smart matches, 23andMe, and I keep coming up with matches. And the problem on Autosomal, as I say, family tree DNA is the only one that does mitochondrial testing, and I've been trying to contact people that it looks like I'm matching on the Autosomal test, and I trace their family. I try to get some of them to come on over to family tree DNA and take that mitochondria test. And so far, I get silence. I don't know. I guess people have heard the word that mitochondria is not a good test to take and it's hard to work with and everything else, or what. I don't know what the problem is. But I found a pocket off of my great-great-grandmother. She had a couple sisters out here in Texas. I wrote like 4 or 5 people that I found on Ancestry, and I think one of them on 23andMe or My Heritage or somewhere. I tried to get them to take the mitochondria, and I just get silence. I get no response at all from them. And I even offered to pay for a test, and still silence, like no answer, like nobody tell me where to go or anything. So anyway, and I have found, well, let me move on here. This is my lineage. This is me. My mother was a McCown. Her mother was a Dotson. This is the one that I found some descendants of. Molly Lee Crawford had a sister, Natty, and another one named Mitty or something like that, Minnie. And their mother was Mary Jane Howell, and we're back to Nancy Cobb that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And then this is the brick wall here. This is the number 7 is the sister of Kesiah Willis. Well, identified her parents. I keep losing that cursor. That's what I liked about the pink pointer. Anyway, Kesiah Willis's mother was Susanna Miller, and she was married to I think it's Thomas Willis. And then I traced it on back a little further to Leanna Horton as the mother of Susanna Miller, and she was the wife of James A. Miller. Susanna was born in Rutherford County, North Carolina, 1783. Leanna Horton was born about 1760, and everything I say says Orange County, North Carolina, but there was no. I mean, everything I said. She says Caswell, but Caswell was not created until about 1771 or something like that. So it has to be Orange County at the time that she was born there. But she's born there about 1760. And I was able to prove that Leanna Horton is a daughter of a guy named Townsend Horton. And Townsend Horton was born. It's unusual, but he has a record in the Overwharton Parish of Stafford County, Virginia, and he was born in 1740. So the wife, he's only going to be 20 years old when Leanna is born, so it's got to be probably his first kid. His wife, he has to somehow meet her somewhere close to 1760. And the big surprise to me is in my ancestry, as I look at my matches on the mitochondria, I got Yankees on a wood pile. There are my matches, aside from the 3 people descended from Kesiah Willis. My other matches, my closer matches, have their ancestry goes back. I trace their ancestry back to Rutland County, Vermont, Coventry, Rhode Island, and I don't know, places in New York and stuff like that. So they're all New England families, and so I haven't been able to get. I have one lady that we were able to get her back into the 1630s in Essex County, Massachusetts, which is where Salem is, and there's some witches in that family, but they would not be, probably wouldn't be in my family. I mean, they would be in the greater family, but not my direct line. So I've got this New England group. So all I can think of is Townsend Horton, his wife. It has to be coming down from her, and so she's my new brick wall. And I'm looking at anything I can find. I'm looking at migration patterns from Quakers, Baptists coming down from New England. There's a lot of people coming down in the 1750s to North Carolina and Virginia. There was Quakers that came into eastern, the real northeastern area of North Carolina, and it's about 200 miles from that area over to Orange County, North Carolina. So they're a possibility, but I kind of look. There's a lot of people coming down the Appalachian Trail, not the Appalachian Trail, the Great Wagon Trail coming down through the Valley of Virginia, and also through the center of Virginia coming down in through where Fredericksburg and stuff like that is. And what's funny is I think some of my nieces and brother may live in Fredericksburg today, right now. But anyway, so that's the lineage of what I have come across and where my brick wall is right now. And so I'm researching from there to try to attempt to discover who Leanna Horton's mother was. Again, I threw this back in. My brick wall here is back 10 generations back, and so this is kind of what I'm looking for. Is I'm beyond five generations, and so I'm back 10 generations now, and here are some of the people in our mitochondria group. I have the three. Remember, Townsend Horton is born in 1740 in Virginia, and he's from a family that's Virginia family. So that this New England stuff is not coming from him; it's coming from his wife's side. So there's three descendants of Kesiah Willis. We have Lucy. As I started working back with the different people matching me, I got back as far as Lucy Golf, and she's in Covington, Rhode Island, Clarendon, Vermont. I have another one that turns out to be Lucy's sister. It's another person in the test group, and so these two here are sisters, and they think her mother may have been a Davis. So anyway, they were in that area. And another person, I'm sorry, keeps messing with me. I have another family that I've worked back, and this lady, Elizabeth Bennett, is buried in a historic cemetery. It's a Bennett cemetery. No, it's her husband's family. I'm trying to remember what her husband's family is. Anyway, it's her husband's family cemetery in Coventry, Rhode Island. So you see Coventry, Rhode Island for the Golfs. You see the Coventry, Rhode Island for the Bennetts. And then we have Patsy Waite that lived in Dutchess County, New York. And I think it's like her daughter-in-law or someone like that, which would not have she would not, the daughter-in-law would not have our mitochondria because she wouldn't have inherited from her husband. And they were in Dutchess County, New York, and they went to Crawford County, Pennsylvania, where she died. But her ancestry, the Waites, there were Waites in Coventry, Rhode Island. And this is showing my genetic two distance people. This is my genetic 3. And on this genetic distance 3, all of these people basically are Scandinavian. And we may have at least one of those matches here tonight, I think, that are on our thing tonight. So I don't know where my Scandinavian part is coming from. It could be my ancestor actually came from Scandinavia, or it could be, because I always consider myself a colonial American, and it could be that my ancestor may have come from Scandinavia to maybe New Netherlands or New Sweden, which is around New York, Delaware area, and they could have intermarried or something like that with maybe some of the Quakers or whatever that might have made a migration on down into Virginia. So I don't know where the Scandinavian's coming from. It could be in the U.S. or it could be actually in Scandinavia. Anyway, like I say, it's kind of scary, my New England heritage, but I'm kind of getting used to the idea of it. And I've always been proud of my Southern ancestry. I've got several ancestors from Jamestown, and a lot of, all of my ancestry is colonial. I've only got one immigrant family that ever came to America after the Revolution, and that family was in South Carolina by 1790. So everyone else was here in America. I do have a few people who were predominantly English or Quakers or whatever, or became Quaker, that did live in New York, in the New Netherlands area, and they moved into New Jersey. But in my line, by 1750 or so, they're down in North Carolina and Virginia. So anyway, I'm anticipating a Quaker, a Baptist, or some kind of a rebel type thing that was restless in New England, and they ended up moving south. This kind of represents the numbers of, if you're thinking about mitochondria, I have 64 total matches, and there's 64 in my HVR1, 22, and when you have the HVR1, HVR2, that's an exact match. And so I have 64 people who I match in HVR1. There's a few of them that I don't match in HVR2, almost half of those that I do match. I only match 29 people in the HVR1 and 2. And then in the full mitochondria, I only have 20 matches, period. And I have 0 genetic distance, 0. I have 1, in the genetic distance 1, I have 8 matches. Genetic 2, I have 7 matches. Genetic 3, I have 5. That's the ones with the, pretty much that's the ones with the Scandinavian ancestry. And then to contrast that and compare, this is Peggy and Margaret's ancestry haplogroup. They have T2B5A, and it kind of freaked me out. I had to look at that twice. They have a total of 2,500 matches on their HVR1, but then a lot of those matches dropped off, and they only have 90 that are matching them exactly on the HVR1 and 2. And then I can't figure this out, how they have more full mitochondria, 161, and their breakdown on the 0 genetic distance is 51. On the genetic distance 1, it's 45. Genetic 2, it's 52, and genetic distance 3. There's 13 of those. So they have a whole lot more to work with than I which is nice, not having that many. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I just kind of mentioned this too. I anticipate that I have a New England Quaker, Baptist, or some kind of person like that. I'm studying the movements and migrations of anybody who might have come from New England or the middle Atlantic states to be in the South prior to 1760. There's a number of groups coming down there from different directions. Anyway, I'm combining my genealogy with family history and historical research. And anyway, it's up for grabs. It's one of those mystery cases. Here, if you're interested, this is the website here for, it's mixxchromosome.nickbarnette.com is where my website is. I've got 2 different things. I've got my own mitochondria site, and I have the project site for the whole project on that same page. So if you're interested, copy that down, or just send me an email and I'll email it to you. Anybody have any questions?
So Mick, I'm going to unmute everybody, I think. Or you all may have to unmute yourself because it doesn't seem to be doing it.
If you don't know what I look like, this is my picture.
Nick, Nick, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
So this is Brenda. I have a quick question. In one of the slides that you were going through, you had something about remember. Is this the match under your matches? What was remember just like, is that the last name of somebody, or is that actually you were trying to remember this is where you started or something?
I'm not sure.
It was the slide that said matches and possible origins, and you had a match, you had all the lists of names, and for Townsend Horton you had remember.
Oh, you know, I might have been trying to write a note to myself, and it maybe snuck in.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Okay,
And-
yeah, it
In the, it's
Yeah.
like 1700s names like Remember, Charity,
Exactly.
they had,
Yeah.
gave characteristics as names.
That's
So-
what I
don't
was
know.
wondering, because I thought
I
it was
bet I
unusual.
was I bet I was trying to write some kind of note to myself as I was making the slide, and I probably maybe it got down below the below, and I didn't see it to get rid of it.
So Mick, I have a
Anyone else?
question. I have a question.
Mick, this is David Meek.
Okay.
Oh. Mick, this is
Yes.
David Meek. Can I speak? Okay. I have Stillmans in New York, New Jersey in the 17th or 18th century. I'm not sure. And they all came to North Carolina. So what's your website? Let me write it down. The Mix X chromosome for
I
the
believe-
Stillman, or
It's possible that the lady that had the Stillman name that was one of my matches. Of course, that's probably I'm guessing that's her married name, but
okay.
but I think she could be on here tonight. And if you'd like, you could just email me, and I'd be happy to get you in touch with her.
Okay. Well, we're pretty far back. I've got Stillman all the way back. They're a prominent family in New York and New Jersey. So
Yeah,
it goes back. There's just
wasn't that the one from New York? Her ancestry, wasn't it, in New York?
yes.
On the slide. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's, I'm guessing. I mean, it could be her maiden name, but in my match, it's really not her.
Okay.
It's probably her, but it,
But it's not her.
It's her. It's
the
her
married
mother,
name
her
is-
mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, and so
So it's
it was,
not
I think
her.
that was Patsy Wade, if I'm not mistaken, was her ancestor,
Okay.
and they were in Dutchess County, New York, or somewhere like that. But yeah, just if you're welcome to write me, and I'll put you in touch with her.
Okay.
Mick, this is Barbara. You had 2 generations before Mama Willis. I don't remember those ladies' names, but have you traced the descendants of either of those 2 women? I mean, so obviously you're one of the descendants, but did those women have sisters that you've been able to trace?
Actually, yes. And on WikiTree yesterday, actually, I think I saw it previously. On WikiTree, I found about 3 different people descended from a sister of Susanna Miller. Susanna Miller had a sister named Kesiah. I guess they kept that in the family. There's a bunch of Kesiahs in those different families. And there's about 3 people, and I don't think they're on here tonight. I think I was trying to invite them, and I don't think I ever heard back from them. But anyway, they descend from one of the sisters of Kesiah Willis, or of Kesiah Willis's mother, Susanna Miller. And the trouble is we're back pretty far. And so far as some of these people matching me back there on the Autosomal, It's real, because I mean, like, we almost have no DNA back that far. We're going back 10 generations.
Well, the other problem
So
I've found is having, if I can find that sister back that far, then they daughter out by the time they get down to people who are alive today.
yeah, that's usually the case. But I did identify 3 different people on WikiTree that were descended from Susanna Miller's sister, Kesiah, in the female line.
In the female line, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I approached them at several months ago, trying to get them to take the mitochondria test, and I got silence. I don't know what. Maybe this mitochondria scares people. I don't know.
Oh, I think partly it's more expensive, and it's difficult to use to track. You know, you're not going to find answers right away.
But I have found it being rewarding. I mean, I went from, I've extended this lineage 3-4 generations beyond Nancy Cobb, and unfortunately, I haven't discovered the first name of Nancy Cobb's mother, but because of other mitochondria matches, I mean, it has to either come from her or mother or somewhere, and it's of that generation. So it's been rewarding, but I've been working on it very heavily for the last year.
Mick, this is Karen Womack.
Yes, ma'am. Karen's one of our project people.
Yes, and I don't really understand all this very well, but maybe you can help me here. My mother's mother's my 4th great grandmother, who was born in 1783 in Germany. Okay.
Go ahead.
So my mother is actually from Germany.
Okay.
So
what genetic distance are you and I? Are we
a 3?
We're on a 3. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so my father is also from the colonies. I mean, his family's mainly from Virginia and New Netherlands and Massachusetts and Connecticut. But my mother's family, I mean, is all from Germany. So, am I also related to this Kesiah or Kesiah or?
The answer is we are, but it's a long way back. In our case, maybe there's, what do we have, 3 or 4 of you that are matching me at 3 genetic distance, and you're closer. I haven't looked at your matches to see how close you are to those that I am 3 genetic distance from, but you and them are probably much more closer than you and I. And your ancestry is going to be more likely in Germany and Scandinavia.
Yes, I mean, I know that half of mine is for sure.
Yeah.
But did maybe one of Ursula's ancestors come to America? Would that have caused all this?
There is a possibility. There is a possibility. That's what I question. How do I get my matches with those of you who are 3 genetic distance? I don't know if we have to go all the way back, because I don't think any of you are really super early, and which means that you might have to do some more work to get back. Germany has really good records if you're lucky, and so does Scandinavia.
Yeah, the problem for me is that my cousins are archivists for our part of Germany.
Oh, you're
And
lucky.
yeah, but they're the ones from whom I have the family trees. So if they weren't able to go back any further than that, because they were pretty astute, then, you know, my chances of finding anything further is probably not very good.
What you need to look at is who you are probably matching. I haven't looked at your matches to see how close you're related to, you know, genetic distance wise with the people that I'm 3 genetic distance from.
Okay.
And I got a feeling you're going to be a lot closer to them than I am. In other
Well, that
words,
would be interesting.
you and I are at 3. I
Yeah.
think, you know, it's a good chance that, you know, and all of you kind of right there together as far as matching me. And like I say, I don't know if I have, if you and I are related by somebody who came from Germany to the US, or if it's somebody in my own line that maybe we're all related prior to my people ever coming to the US.
Yeah, that's a thought too.
Yeah.
And you know, my American ancestors, there were some that came from Germany also. I'm
Well,
aware.
you and I are only related on our mother side.
That's true. That's true.
But as one of those mothers back there way back had daughters, their sons and daughters got the same mitochondria,
Okay,
and
and some girls,
so the daughters would have passed it on down.
so they might have, one of them may have come to the United States then.
That's possible, yes.
Okay, that's probably the likely answer to that then. I was really surprised to hear a match, a mitochondrial match from somebody whose ancestors are colonial. So I was really surprised about that.
Yeah, I was surprised too, Germany and Scandinavia. So yeah, I'm sitting there scratching my head now. How can this be? You know, so I don't know if it's in America or if it's actually if my lineage extends back into Europe, and maybe that's where it's at. I don't know.
Do you know of any German ancestors of yours?
Yes, I do, but not in that mitochondrial line. That's
Well, who knows?
That's the only way on this test that you and I can relate.
Correct.
We might relate another way, but
Right.
But that's the only way that we could relate in this test.
Yes. Well, very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Some of you still have your microphones muted. If you want to ask a question, you'll need to unmute your microphone yourself. Because I can't seem to do that. And you would do that by, there should be in the middle of your lower screen, a mic, a camera, a screen button, and a leave button there. So you need to click on the microphone button if you'd like to talk.
Well.
Okay. Well, this summer, we will be planning the programs for next year. If any of you all would like to make a presentation to the group, I'm assuming we're going to be live at the library. We hope so anyway. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do it by GoToMeeting, or actually we'll probably be doing Zoom in the summer. I mean, in the rest of the year, you could sit at home and do your presentation, and some of us could be at the library to do it. So all those things are to be decided as we move along, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person. I was in another Zoom meeting earlier today, and we were asked what our favorite song was about the virus situation, and one lady said her song was "See You in September." Those of you that are old enough, you know that song.
Yeah.
So I hope that we will be seeing each other this September. Remember, the DNA seminar coming up soon that will be totally totally virtual. Some really great speakers in that. I suggest you go online and look at the programs because there will be 3 tracks in the sense of a beginner, intermediate, advanced, and you can jump back and forth. My understanding is you will register and you will then pick which of the 4 sessions out of 12 you want to attend. Now, I think Susan had to leave, so she may be correcting us. But I did notice that registration is now live, and so you actually could go online and register for that event. Thank you so much for this presentation today.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Meg.
Enjoyed
It was very informative.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you.
I forgot to tell you, now if you want to send us suggestions for programming for next year, send it to DNA@dallasgenealogy.org. That's an email address we use for all the correspondence, DNA@dallasgenealogy.org. If you have any friends, any researchers, any family members who want to be on the mailing list, ask them to send their name and email address and I will add them.
This has been a presentation of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. Your membership dues are supporting this and other society activities. If you're not yet a member, I hope you consider joining. You can become a member for as little as $35 a year, and you can join by going to our website, dallasgenealogy.org, and clicking on the membership tab.